I don't buy the obvious read of this video, which is, wow, one clever guy built his own satellite. No, what this actually documents is something both more impressive and more slippery. It's a creator acting as ringmaster for a small aerospace supply chain, then packaging that collaboration as personal ingenuity. And to be fair, that still takes vision, money, persuasion, and enough technical literacy to keep up with real engineers. But it matters because the title promises one thing. I tried building my own space satellite, while the evidence in the video points to a different truth. He didn't build a satellite so much as assemble access to the institutions that can. The core claim isn't just that a satellite was built. It's that the distance between consumer internet spectacle and orbital hardware can be collapsed into a charming challenge video. Your selfie on a pixel in space. A satellite called SAT Gus. T-Mobile tie-in. Team Pixel updates. That's the proposition, space, but as a prank with sponsorships. The video wants you to feel that orbital engineering has become playful, personal, almost domesticated. And that's where my skepticism starts, because the more seriously the video explains the hardware, the more it undercuts its own myth of casual accessibility. To the video's credit, the strongest material is exactly where the fantasy breaks and engineering shows up. Once it gets into the actual constraints, camera hardening, radiation-resistant glass, thermal vacuum testing, vibration testing, deployment mechanics, and the fact that the thing has to survive launch before it can even fail in orbit, the project stops sounding like a YouTube bit and starts sounding like systems engineering. That's the best evidence the video offers. Not the triumphant music, not the launch footage, but the quiet accumulation of hostile constraints. Space is a regime of punishment. Vacuum, heat swings, vibration, radiation, power limits, mass limits. The video is at its best when it lets those constraints humble the premise. But watch how the credit is distributed. The transcript thanks Tyvak for bringing SAT Gus to life, shot for radiation-resistant glass, Redwire for the space-hardened camera, Muon Space for thermal vac testing, a separate lab for vibration testing, and even Colorado School of Mines for explosive research support. That list is not a footnote. That list is the story. It tells you the real protagonist here is industrial specialization. Every time the video says, "I built," or invites you to feel the thrill of one creator brute-forcing orbital hardware, those acknowledgements are standing in the corner clearing their throat. Now, I don't think that makes the video dishonest. In one sense, it's unusually honest by creator project standards because it does name the partners and specialized testing. Plenty of internet stunt science hides the subcontractors. This one doesn't. And that matters. If the video had pretended the camera, the bus, the testing, and the launch integration all happened in one workshop, I'd be much harsher. Instead, the problem is subtler. The acknowledgements are transparent, but the emotional framing still belongs to the lone builder myth. The disclosure is there, the emphasis isn't. And then there's the mission itself, which is morally stranger than the video lets on. A lot of engineering labor, launch capacity, testing infrastructure, and aerospace expertise are being marshaled so viewers can get a selfie displayed on a phone in orbit. That's not a technical objection, it's a values objection. The video tries to sell this as democratizing wonder, space made personal. My read is harsher. It's consumer personalization grafted onto a domain that usually justifies itself through science, communications, defense, or Earth observation. This satellite's emotional pitch is basically one small step for mankind, one giant leap for your selfie game. That line is funny, but it also reveals the project's emptiness. The satellite becomes an expensive mirror. Still, the video accidentally makes a better argument than the one it sets out to make. The real educational value isn't "look what I built." It's "look how impossible space hardware becomes once you stop hand-waving." The best lesson here is institutional, not inspirational. It shows that getting something to orbit is less about having a genius idea than about surviving a chain of interfaces, component reliability, test facilities, integration partners, launch providers, environmental qualification, deployment risk, communications planning. In other words, the strongest part of the argument is also its biggest vulnerability. The more seriously the video proves that the satellite exists, the more it proves that this is not a DIY story at all. What the video also leaves underexplained is what counts as success. Is success getting a payload integrated? Surviving vibration and thermal vac? Reaching orbit? Returning usable imagery? Displaying the selfies reliably? Remaining operational for some meaningful duration? Those are very different milestones, and creator storytelling loves to blur them because "we launched it" sounds close enough to "we succeeded." Space projects die in stages. A payload can be brilliantly designed and still fail at deployment, power, communications, thermal control, or software operations. If the point is to teach viewers what it means to put a satellite in space, the criteria for mission success should be treated with more rigor than a montage and a launch shot. And yes, the sponsorship layer matters substantively, not just aesthetically. T-Mobile and Pixel aren't random ads stapled onto a build. They shape what the satellite is for and how the story is told. The hardware becomes a delivery mechanism for brand participation. The phone isn't just documentation, it's the payload gimmick. The audience isn't invited to understand orbital communications or remote sensing or bus design in depth. They're invited to imagine themselves inside the stunt. That's smart entertainment. It's also a narrowing of ambition. The satellite is framed less as an instrument than as a marketing stage prop that happens to require real aerospace competence. What I wanted, and what the video keeps teasing without fully committing to, is the unflattering middle of the project. The trade-offs, the dead ends, the arguments with physics. Show me the power budget. Show me what got cut to make mass. Show me the failure modes they were actually scared of. Show me why a space-hardened camera from Redwire was necessary instead of a cheaper compromise. Show me what Tyvek handled that the channel couldn't. Not because I need the video to become a graduate seminar, but because that's where the truth of the project lives. Right now, the engineering detail is enough to impress you, but not quite enough to let you interrogate the claim. So my verdict is awkwardly split. As a feat of coordination, fundraising, and public-facing science spectacle, this is genuinely impressive. It recruits real aerospace partners, gets viewers to care about environmental testing, and briefly punctures the fantasy that space is just a bigger version of maker culture. As an argument that a YouTuber built his own satellite, it's overstated. The video doesn't really prove lone ingenuity. It proves the opposite, that orbital hardware is an ecosystem achievement, and that the ecosystem deserves more of the credit than the thumbnail logic can tolerate. And honestly, that's why I liked it. Not because it sells the dream, but because if you watch against the grain, it exposes the machinery under the dream. The vendors, the labs, the compromises, the sponsorship logic, the giant team hidden inside the word "I." If that's the kind of read you want, reviews that don't just ask whether a video is exciting, but what it quietly admits while trying to inspire you, stick around. The obvious interpretation is usually the least interesting one.